What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the ownership of my Lexus IS250. I've had the car for roughly about half a year now, and I want to go over all the stuff I've done and kind of just do a full walk around and what things I need to address, and kind of tell you how my experiences have been owning this 2008 Lexus IS250. It's really windy outside, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to attempt to talk about the car while I walk around the car and kind of show you different parts of it. Here we go into the exterior of the IS250. The car was repainted by Ben. It is using the Esprit Premier full kit. The front bumper obviously is a full front bumper with a conversion. The sides and rear are add-on pieces. The car still needs to be cut and buffed. It was painted in a very fast rush and didn't have time for the paint to fully cure by the time SEMA came around, so that needs to be done next once Ben has a little bit of time on his hands. Overall, I've been really happy with how the car looks. I love the front end especially, except for the whoopsie, which I'm still getting taken care of. The front lip and the gel coat's cracked along with the bumper. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but you can see the crack in the gel coat, so a lot of repairs need to be done there, but I am working with the paving company to get that sorted. In the trunk, I still need to reinstall the piece there that you see missing, but other than that, I just need a really good vacuum. The little shop vac that I have in my garage isn't sufficient enough to get all that out, so I do need to take it to a more powerful vac spot. In the previous video, you can see that I cleaned up underneath the spare tire well, so everything looks decent again. In the engine bay, haven't really done much but clean it up, as you saw in other previous videos. I do need to put all these shrouds and shielding and all that covers back in. The only mod I've done to the engine outside the PTS exhaust is the engine intake, and I upgraded to a Optima red top. There is a quick shot of the CKS coilover setup. It's set 4 clicks from softest. The wheel set I'm using is CSW Watkins at a 19-inch 8.5 9.5 plus 40 offset with Toyo tires. Here's a quick pan shot of the back seat. As you can see, there's some permanent indentations in the leather. The car had 2 baby seats installed on them for quite a while, so that's not coming out, but it's okay. There's no tears, and this is a daily. I'm not stressed out about it. The door panels have the typical Lexus wear and tear on the rubber or plastic part of the panel. The leather inserts look just fine. I will address this at some other point in time. It doesn't personally bother me. It's one of those common issues with the current or the second generation IS. The 2 front door panels are in much better shape than the 2 rear. Here is the passenger seat. Overall, I would give it about a 7 out of 10 just because of the drying leather. After its condition, it actually looks great. Driver's seat obviously has a little bit more wear there on the bolster, but there's no actual tears, so I'm leaving it as how it is. I'm perfectly fine with it. It doesn't bother me, and the seat's very comfortable. The dash itself has been replaced through Lexus's recall a few years ago. There's nothing wrong with the dash, minus a couple small scratches on the passenger side. The camera's not picking it up, and also on the glove box. But again, doesn't bother me, so no big deal. Next is the exhaust startup. This is a cold start on the PTS exhaust. It's a full catback. I love the tone of it. It sounds really great. If you need to pick one up, just hit up Mod in Japan. They have them in stock.
A few inches later.
So driving this car is actually really nice. It is a Lexus after all, obviously with the modifications, the coilovers. Can you say it's honest? It honestly rides exactly like stock? No, you cannot, but it does ride very nice. The CKS coilover setup is pretty smooth. Used a ton of different coilovers, you know, over the course of the years of me modifying cars and having a bunch of different cars, and this is, you know, a solid brand. and well worth the price point. The car overall rides really nice and smooth. There's no weird steering play in terms of the drivetrain, no weird noises. Everything is as needed. But the big issue I have with the car is still the occurring issues. So if you look here on the dash, it's a giant Christmas tree of lights. If you remember in a previous episode, I went to visit my friend David, and he diagnosed a lot of the issues with the car. So there's a few things that I need to address and figure out which way or which route I'm going to go about fixing everything. So the first issue for the engine is the camshaft position sensors. Those need to be replaced. A fairly common issue with this generation IS and Lexus in general. It's just a couple sensors. I recommend to buy the OEM ones. I just haven't gotten around to it. The car drives okay. It just has, it trips a light. The next issue I have is the big one. It is the transmission. So back in the day, Lexus used to promote this lifetime fluid for the transmission. And as we all know, when I first heard it back then when they came out with this car and was promoting the service, I have a couple friends with these cars. They were promoting that, and all my friends were like, nah, that's impossible. No fluid lasts a lifetime. A little bit of common sense applied there. But they were gloating it because a couple other car manufacturers were doing it, and every car manufacturer that was on this bandwagon hype of you never have to service your transmission ever, all pretty much succumb to the same issues. At about 100 to 140,000 miles, depending on what car, the transmission would just go because the fluid would be old. It would, lose its lifespan and just burn up, and then from there, all your internal components go to crap. So this car was no exception. It has approximately 142,000 miles. I believe the issue it has been ongoing for about a few years now, but the previous owner wasn't driving anywhere far, especially during the, since, spring 2020 when everything kind of shut down. The car pretty much sat. The car only shifts up to 4th gear. Occasionally it has this weird issue where it does not want to shift past 3rd. All I really do is pull over, put the car in park, shut the car off, turn the car back on, and then it shifts to 4th. 5th and 6th gear, from what I can tell, are working okay. There was no rough shifting. It shifts very smooth. The only issue that I'm having with the car is it won't shift to that, and usually that's because of the solenoids. Now, if you look up this transmission issue with a lot on the Lexus forum, like Club Lexus and a couple others, and a lot of dealerships will tell you, oh, you need a brand new transmission, it's going to be an $8,000 job, and people tend to just get scared and then get rid of the car. Now, I've had a few friends, Emery being one of them, who went and replaced. He has the same car I do, and he replaced the solenoids, and the car drives fine. So there hasn't been any issues with him since. So it's good for him that he's been able to do that. But I'm at a crossroads where it doesn't shift to 5th and 6th. It's about 140,000 miles on this transmission. He had less miles on his, and I've been looking up prices online for a used very low mileage transmission and versus the price of the solenoids and what needs to be done. More or less, to do this correctly, you need to drop the transmission. So there's a remove and install on a transmission. So you have to drop the transmission. So there's already labor involved there. A new or used transmission in good shape isn't as expensive as I thought it would be. I'm seeing a lot of them on eBay and a lot of engine importers around the LA area selling them for about $800 to $900. The solenoids from Lexus alone, brand new ones, are about $300 a piece, roughly retail. Wholesale's probably, I don't know, $220, $240. So the question is do I take the gamble, fix the solenoids, or do I just replace the transmission and just be done with it? I may opt for just replacing the transmission entirely. I have not come to that decision, but as of right now, I'm just driving the car locally a lot, and it hasn't had any problems, minus fairly poor gas mileage because of the you know, it doesn't shift past fourth. So that's one of my big things right now. I'm trying to figure out another couple issues with the car. Other than that, you know, it's pretty good. So I'm not sure if the camera's picking up the road noise, but for a Lexus IS250, it's not bad. It's definitely not the most quietest car for road noise out there, but it's pretty good. It's definitely better than my XB, way better. There's other cars that I've owned that obviously will absorb road noise better, but it's not a car of this type. This is, you know, a modified car, so with low profile tires, you know, aftermarket suspension, so it's not really the, you know, gonna be the most quiet and smooth ride around. But overall, I've been pretty happy with this car. I just have to address those issues that need to be addressed. So I've only done some basic maintenance with the car, which is the oil change, and I did the spark plugs. If you look through the previous videos of this build series, you can see when I did the spark plugs. That one I opted to do myself because it only costs the parts. The big thing with the spark plugs is why dealerships charge so much is the amount of labor it takes. You have to remove the intake manifold to get to the I believe two or three of the spark plugs. They're not easy to reach, or you can't even do it without disassembling, you know, the entire intake manifold. So that was real fun to do, but I got it done, and I understand why they charge so much. Now, I don't have to do it again for a few years, so I'm very happy about that. I plan on keeping this car for a while, so not a huge deal. I haven't done the coolant yet. I haven't done a few other things, fluid flushes and whatnot, because I looked at it and the fluid still looks good. So I was like, I'm not gonna touch it yet. The belts still look fine, so I haven't touched that yet either. In terms of the car itself, I really do enjoy driving it. It's more comfortable. Obviously, this is a huge step up from my XB, so that's, you know, without a question. Not that I don't like the XB, I just need something that's a little bit more comfortable to drive, and something, you know, that has a little bit of fun to it. Now, you may be wondering why I went with a 250 instead of a 350. Just supply chain. The availability of white 350s with black interior, I was searching for a good 3-4 weeks, couldn't find anything within a reasonable price. Most of the market, as you know, right now in 2022 is still pretty insane. I am actually contemplating selling the XB just for that reason. I can get top dollar for it and just kind of sit and wait, but you know, we'll see. I'm not in an immediate rush to sell the car. I still like the car. It's just my brother's driving right now, and the Lexus is my everyday driver. I bought this from a friend's sister, sight unseen. I don't blame her for a lot of the issues the car has. You're still buying, at the end of the day, you're buying a used car. I just wish the car had a little bit less issues than I found out, but it's okay. I've been working through it, and it makes for great content, and it's a good learning curve with this car. Every car that I've ever owned, I've, you know, put a lot of time into and worked into, especially when it's older. So this car overall, before I started modifying it, I would have gave it about from the exterior condition, I would say it maybe be a 3 or 4 out of 10. There was a lot of issues with the paint, as you can see in the previous videos. The interior, it's about a 6-7 out of 10. Drivetrain, obviously I would give it a 2 out of 10 just because of the transmission issue. But yeah, right now as it stands, the outside minus the cracked bumper and lip from the whoopsie. The exterior I'm pretty happy with. It was resprayed a whiter, newer generation Lexus IS white, and then I have obviously the Esprit kit on it, so I really like how it looks. The car is more my type, or more my style. The wheels are TSW Watkins 19-inch staggered with Toyo tires. With the tires, I wanted to get wider tires, but because of, again, the world we live in currently, when SEMA time came around, I could not get my hands on tires of that size for Toyo. Toyo didn't have any inventory, and it was kind of a sad moment because I've been running Toyo since forever, and for me not to be able to get the tire sizes I wanted, it is what it is, but I still have okay size tires. So the fronts are 235s, the rear are 255s, both 35 series front and rear. The rears I wanted to get wider, but again, they didn't have it and there was no ETA on the order, so I couldn't really do anything about it. The suspension is CKS suspension, obviously, full coilover setup. The brakes are power stop cross-drill slotted rotors along with their pads on both front and rear. So that was all done. I have an engine intake as you saw earlier in the video, PTS exhaust, and yeah, that's pretty much all the mods. I do plan on putting a full audio system in here and upgrading the technology with a lot of Sony products coming soon, hopefully. But before I start modifying the car more and doing more to it, I do want to go through and fix everything mechanically, making sure the car is 100% running before I start really modifying and doing a lot more. Again, this is my daily driver. I'm not trying to make it a full show car. Some people are like, oh, you didn't do the interior, or you would have done this, you should bag it. I've had a lot of air suspension or bagged cars in my life, and they're fine. I've never had an issue with a single one of them, but this car I opted for coilovers just because this was my daily, and I plan on doing a lot of LA trips with this thing if everything goes to plan in the near future. So we'll see, but this definitely is a more comfortable car that I can take those trips in. Not that the XB is bad, but 90 horsepower car going up and down those hills and mountains isn't the most fun thing to deal with, especially when you're trying to keep momentum going. The second if somebody else pops out of the lane, you're going, you know, 75, 80, somebody pops out of the lane going slower, you lose that momentum. It's hard to get the car moving again. So this car is a lot more smooth and a lot more comfortable for those trips. So I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. And we're also still doing the 1,000 subscriber merch giveaway. All you gotta do is subscribe to this channel and follow our socials on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And once we hit 1,000, I'm gonna give away some merch to some lucky people out there. Thanks again so much for watching. I appreciate all the love and support. Until then, see you on the next episode.